Oh yeah, cool. Well, I'll launch into it. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Are you in the class as well?
Yeah, I'm Jenny.
Jenny,
Yeah,
right, okay.
hi.
So, yeah, been in contact via email?
So, yeah, that's right,
yeah. Sorry, just assumed you were a student who's been hanging on from another class, just using the computers. That happens. All right, good to meet you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so as I explained to Ericsson, also Ericsson wasn't at Monday's class. There's an introductory video on there as you come in. Unfortunately, the video from Monday didn't work. I didn't do the right things. But also, yeah, I think videoing here is going to be fairly poor as well, as far as I can tell, because we keep getting punctuated by lots of stuff. What I'm going to try to do next Monday, if I'm allowed to, it's having to talk to people who book rooms and things like that. But it looks like 311 is empty during our class, so I might see if we can sneak that one if there's not plans for that room, which would be, I think that'd be better. I think it's a better space to work in. It's not bad, not worse, but I reckon we can see about grabbing that room on Monday. So, yeah, so most of the information you need is in that introductory video. So for the two of you, just have a look at that in your own time. But as I promised on Monday, what I've done is I've put up. Where is it? I haven't moved it around. It'd be probably right down the bottom here. I dropped it in. Yeah, there we go. So I've put up an example of a filing system like you're instructed. So I have to move this. Yeah, I'll move it around right now just to get it done. Pop it up. It's going to be right up the top here, next to filing protocol. Well, I'll move it to there. There we go. So the filing and organisation is pretty much going to be key for this subject. That's kind of what you do as drafters, is you communicate and you don't make stuff up. You pull stuff from everywhere else. That's what you're doing. You're just pulling stuff together, or you make stuff up a bit. You draw things, right? It is creative. You're getting ideas and you're fleshing them out into something that can be built. But by and large, you're bringing stuff together. File management is going to be an important key of what you do through your communicating. So what I've done here is, now I've just got a screenshot of the example. So I've produced like a filing system. That's filing system example. That's the folder that I put everything in. So it's all collapsed. It's all nice and neat. But then I expanded out all those folders so you can see the whole trail of everything. And that's what I'm expecting you to do as well. So you're asked later on to show me your filing systems for various different stages and show me where you've put something within your filing system so that I can see it's all quite logically laid out. So that's my parent file, so to speak. And under that parent file, I've got both archive and archive, projects complete, and projects in progress. And then under that projects in progress, also under that project's complete, I'll have a whole heap of projects. So Smith J01, when John Smith employed me in January, that one's now complete. And we've got John Smith in February 2020 here. That's the sort of naming system I think works fairly well for a reasonable size office. When you start having larger offices that are national or something, you might need to devise better systems, but you typically remember somebody's surname, and then the month in which the job came in, of which year, and you're going to be hard pressed to find another instance where you're going to have exactly the same surname, client, and time at which it came in. So there's very little risk of duplication of such a thing. Then under that, I did folders for accounts, communication, compliance considerations, contracts, counsel, drawing files, facilities, materials, project brief, and site. Then under each of these, I've put in subfolders. So communications with client, consultants, and designer. What I also did is I took a leaf out of Elizabeth's book, and I was hoping I'd get this all done before you walked in, because we'll pull it to pieces. But that thing about providing a shortcut or a link to one source of truth, I think that is a really good idea within a filing system, because we've got communications here, and I've got client, consultants, designer, but we also want to be communicating with council. But our communications with council will also want to come under here, under council communications, because we've got a folder for council, and we want to have those communications under that section as well. So what I've actually done here is I did a bookmark, or sorry, a link to this one here. So when we're under communications, it's got these folders and then a link that links me to this bit here. When I expanded them out, you don't see it. You'll only, yeah. Well, that was expanded out on the left-hand side of Explorer. So anyhow, but that's another thing I think is a great thing to do, is to add those links in there like you suggested. And so, and then so we've got those folders and then subfolders, various different things. Have a look at the project. What you'll do is you'll add some things specific to the project, but this pretty much follows that Word document that sets out these are the sort of folders you'll have, and then you'll add a few extras. What's not set out in that Word document is I added facilities in there, and I added solar and tanks, because one of the things you've got to do for project one is you've got to have some energy efficiency or environmentally friendly considerations in your build. One of those is about independent power generation. That's one way of going about it. Another way of going about it is double glazing and correct orientation. Another thing you can do is collect your own water and reuse water on site, or also aerated septic systems, these sorts of things. So you're becoming more autonomous with with providing your facilities rather than relying just on the networks. So I put that in there. Also, another thing you're going to have to add, I didn't add it with this one, is termite protection. So termite protection, I would probably put that under floors, but you may want to also have it under compliance considerations as well. So things like under compliance considerations, yeah, I'd have the bushfire attack level information. I'd have some important council constraints, some other important constraints that happen just for that building, and termite management may be one of them. So that's the example I promised I'd provide you with. So that's up there, as well as still that office filing and protocol that we looked at on Monday. So what we're going to go on and do today, so that's under industry standards and instructions. What we'll have a look at today, we're going to start sinking our teeth into project one. So we're getting straight into it, and we're actually going to work through our task one today. If you're efficient, you might end up working through task one and task two today. So our task one, we'll just open that up now, and we did have a very brief look at that on Monday. We'll have a detailed look at it today. Yeah. Does everybody have that open? People open that up? What's that?
Where's that located?
That's located on the Learn page under Project 1. So go.
Procedure document?
No, not procedure document. But it's task 1. So task 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Project 1?
Yeah. So we've got. Yep. So we go under Project 1. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it. I'll go back through that again. So we're in here, and when they will become red. So I'll go to Project 1 Planning. And we have our Task 1 requirements and our Task 2 requirements. So Task 1 is what we'll be sinking our teeth into today. But Task 2, once you've done Task 1, Task 2 is also kind of a no-brainer a bit. So I think let's try to work our way through Task 1 today, and you might knock out Task 2 as well, just to give yourselves a bit extra time. I encourage you how we go with that. But so open up that document, but then also open up the procedure document. We want to have a look at both of those, because the procedure document gives us a little bit of information. So we'll just look at Task 1 just very quickly. And what we need to do is we need to find relevant council. So our metropolitan area is divided up into all these different councils, and we have to find which one it's in. So we need to get the address. And then we need development plan zone. So, and I'll talk about zones a little bit more in a minute. We need to find what the wind category is. And we need to find what the climate zone is. We'll then find the council website. Should be fairly simple. Find planning approval application forms. Can be a little bit difficult to navigate your way around through the website to find those, but we should be able to find those fairly easily today. We want to find the power line notification form. So typically the power line notification form comes with your council approval forms. It's one of those things that you have to do with every planning application, is put in a power line notification form, and that's just saying that yes, you are building safely around power lines. You're providing adequate clearance, and in fact, can't say I've ever actually pulled it apart and read it in detail, because I've never really had to infringe on the space around power lines. But you have to make that declaration that yes, you are going to protect the power lines. Then you have to establish drawings documentation required to be submitted to council. So once again, on council web page, establish any further additional supporting documentation. So from the council web page, locate sequence of submission process, locate council time frame for approval, locate council costs involved with planning approval process. So the bulk of this, the vast bulk of that, we'll be getting from our council website. And a lot of that, because SA Map Viewer has brought together a whole bunch of information sources, we can get pretty much this stuff from SA Map Viewer. So SA Map Viewer and council website we're looking at. But we need to know what the address is. Has anybody had a look at the address yet? Shepherd's Hill Road. So that's just here. We can not quite see it from here, but it's pretty close. For anybody who comes through from that direction, you might drive down past the place. You come in? No, you don't take that way. I can take. Yeah, I can either go either way. I've driven past it a fair bit. Yeah. As I said last week, you don't need to visit the site. There's really no need to visit the site, because just about everything you need to know you can get from looking at Google Earth, looking at the council, looking at SA Map Viewer. There's enough information online. But number 174 Shepherd's Hill Road, Bellevue Heights. So I won't give the game away too much. So if you know what council that's in, just keep that to yourself, because it's simple enough to find. And then this procedure document beyond that tells you exactly what you need to be doing for this project. So this will be your guide over the next 4 weeks, and that's what we've got for working on this project, is that 4 weeks, because we have to get this planning approval stuff sorted before we move into building rules of consent. And I can't hold up the building rules of consent people too much, so we'll be fairly fast paced. And, just explain a couple of things. So develop models to meet requirements of this. So that, I don't normally talk in models. That basically means develop an information set to do this. So that the bulk of that information set is going to be a plan set, or all your drawn information. That's the bulk of it. So when we say models, I'm not talking about like little styrofoam blocks on some contoured thing. These are information, bundles of information. But we've got to use that because that's the way it's written about within the unit. So your site analysis, you've got to analyse the site and work out what sort of infrastructure is there, what existing vegetation, all this sort of things there, what contours there are on the site. So that's given to you. So you're given a building, a Revit file for a building, and you're given a Revit file for a site. Bring them together, put the building up and down as you wish within that site, turn it around, put it where you want on that site. There's one clear good option for location of the building. There's a myriad of bad locations, so that should be fairly simple choice for you. So contours, materials, noise control, energy efficiency. So who here knows Shepherd's Hill Road? No. Right. It's a secondary arterial road. It's not a major arterial road like South Road, but it's a secondary road. It feeds into South Road. So it's the road, if you were to come from Blackwood, Belair, Hawthorne, Dean, Upper Sturt, possibly Stirling, all that chunk there, down here to South Road, like a lot of people do, you come via Shepherd's Hill Road. So it's a fairly busy road. It's dual lane both ways, and it's sort of one of those roads that possibly wasn't designed to be a secondary arterial road back in the days when people were thinking about it. So it's a bit congested, it's a bit busy. Traffic is definitely something you'll be thinking about on that site. And so noise control. And so you have to think about ways, how can we mitigate noise? How do you deal with noise? Yeah, thick walls and thick fence. Yes, yeah. If you drive down, what is it? Port Rush Road. Yeah, just about everybody has taken that approach. It's like a bowling alley. Yeah, big walls, big fences. But double glazing, not awesome. Like, makes a massive difference to noise. And insulation in general, and plantings and earth berms and things like that, all, basically anything to sort of confuse sound waves or reduce transmission. You've got to think about energy efficiency. So we'll talk a little bit more about energy efficiency in the next few weeks. What sort of things you can do to make an efficient building. Bushfire attack level. So something that's become, so both of these sort of things, energy efficiency, fire, particularly topical now after this summer that we've had. And yeah, look, building bushfire prone areas, that is not going away. Yeah, you'll be dealing with that a lot. So it's a good opportunity to cut your teeth on that. And site analysis in terms of development plan. So the council development plan tells you what you can do. We'll talk about that a little bit more later today. And then you've got to produce all your sheets. Your cover sheet, your site plan, your floor plan, elevations, sections, and some 3D views, and some other information sheets. Leave that for the weeks to come. Don't need to focus on that at the moment. But
Can I ask though,
yeah,
because I'm seeing a couple of things that could be very useful to be collected while I'm collecting the preliminary information.
yeah,
Because like Land South Australia, whatever it is,
yeah.
actually has the bells on it, or has bushfire information on it. So why would I wait?
Yeah, so you do that in task 2. So, and that's why I'm saying, like, we'll sink our teeth into task 1, but yeah, okay, good point. Let's have a look at task 2, and we'll maybe do those concurrently today. Yeah, because you're right. Whilst you're logged on, yeah, might want to check a few things. So that's the breakdown of our project that we'll be working on. So I've got project task 1, these requirements, and task 2, desktop research. So we'll open that one as well. So our task 1, primarily SA map viewer and council website. Task 2, you're asked to analyse and summarise the client brief. Google search of address for possible floor plans. Now that is something you should do with every project all the time. Google it. Yeah. So often you get asked to work on something, and just so you can get an idea of, okay, this is exactly what I'm working with. Yeah, do that Google search, and you can often pull out plans. So a lot of real estate information stays up online now, unless you request that it's pulled down. A lot of that information, including your house plans, everything like that, stays online. So you can often get that for places you're contracted to work on. Google Map search for existing structures, vegetation, site entry, slope of block, direction of north, neighbouring structures. So you want to be getting all that. Lands Titles Office search for ownership information. We'll cover that a little bit later today. Development plans, summarisation of general council information relevant to site, including sustainability requirements. Zone information, copy of maps relevant to site, e.g. fire zones. So, as you mentioned, SA Map Viewer, get your bushfire attack levels from those. And then finally, reread client brief and ensure that all aspects meet the requirements. And then identify class of building from the NCC. So there's a little bit more to do in task 2 than there is in task 1. Task 1's a bit sort of dipping your toes in the water, trying to find a few things. We'll focus on that, but yeah, look, we might be able to get this done today as well. We'll knock this out, and some things, yes, rather than opening up SA Map Viewer twice, yeah, we'll do that. But look, some of that might make sense to everybody in this. Start. Doesn't make sense to everybody in this room yet.
The client brief, is that something we're making or something we're making?
No. So client brief, that comes from the procedure document. So you'll get that in your procedure. So reading through that procedure document, there's that client brief there.
So these all these little small projects, are they like getting saved within that file system for the address, or is this like just another thing of this becomes like a useful piece of information in like the resources folder in that
Yes. Yeah. So save your procedure document in there under client brief.
Okay.
Yeah. And generate your file name based on that. Now you haven't met the client yet. Look, let's just say for all intents and purposes, the client is John Smith, right? I'll end it. Yeah, John Smith. There's a lot of them about. But look, you can make the client. You can call the client whatever you want, right? That's fine. It can be as fictitious or realistic as you wish. So you'll be naming it, and in your naming protocol, you might as well start in February this year. That's fine. And then save this under client brief. So everybody's fairly much on top of this sort of thing already for that. Well, I did plan to go through this to a decent extent, but I'll keep it fairly quick. then, let you guys get on with it. And so I'll be working through. I'll be working through my slides and so I'm prepared for explaining it. But I'll put the onus back onto you to ask a few more questions then, and just go, hang on, no, I don't understand that.
You can gap analyse performance.
What's that?
You can gap analyse performance. Yes,
yeah, I'll try. Let's try it. Yeah. Okay. So, planning building, got presentations. So start with sources of information. So, yes, Jenny. So, one of the important sources of information is going to be your council website. Even with the major planning reforms that are going on, still there will be plenty of information on council websites for you. Look, I don't know how I've said this, and I'll probably keep saying this, I don't know how it's all going to play out, because it's going to be interesting. Planning is homogenous to some degree between all these councils. You'll see all this language, you'll see references to all these things, you'll see similar things crop up, like 8 metre setback, 6.5 metres to ridge height, claddings with natural tones. You'll see things like that pop up in every single council development plan. But one thing that there's hardly any crossover with is all of their information and fact sheets and what they want in those. So some of the similarities are retaining walls. Retaining walls maximum 1 metre in height to be category 1. So you've got your different categories of complying development, and you always want to sneak stuff through as category 1 if you can. Category 1 doesn't require neighbourhood consultation. So get the neighbours out of it, goes through quicker. Category 2 is if you are going over 1.5 metre high with a retaining wall. So we've got 1 metre is simple, cut off, council don't need to know about it. You don't need to have engineering, and it's category 1. Category 1 with engineering, sorry, 1 metre high with engineering still sneaks into category 1 until it's 1.5 metres high. After 1.5, then we're into category 2 and it requires engineering. That's something you'll see in every council.
After 1.5.
So after 1 metre it requires engineering.
Mm-hmm.
After 1.5 it's category 2.
Okay, right.
So that's something you'll see across the board in councils. And also another thing you'll see across the board is solar panel installations heavier than 100 kilograms require approval. But apart from that, you've got all these information sheets and fact sheets telling you you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and they're all different between the councils. So some councils will say you have to install retention and detention water tanks to a certain size based on the size of your allotment. There are now 3 councils that do that, but we have a dozen metropolitan councils and a lot more outer metropolitan councils. So still the bulk of councils aren't doing that, and 3 that are doing it have different rules around it. So there's a lot of stuff across the councils which is not homogenous. How that's going to be dealt with in the new planning and development code, I don't know. So, but what I think will happen is we'll have the development code, and then councils will still have all these other little bits and pieces which they keep and they control. And the council website's going to be your source of information for that. What's your best source of information for it? Yes, you can phone up the council and they might be able to put you through to somebody who can explain it. And look, and in the main, that's a lovely process. People from councils typically are really nice people to deal with. So they are really quite helpful. But that takes time, and they'll probably say, yeah, there's a fact sheet for that on the website. Whereas you can go straight to the website and get your fact sheet as well. So your website is going to be an important source for information. Currently, it's still your source of information for the development plan. 6 months down the track, that may not be. Well, they'll have a link to the planning and development code, the new one. But as of today, the way we're treating it today for this semester is we're still dealing with development plans, because that's the system that exists right now. And this is one place you can find it. Another place you can find it is on the SA Planning portal. So there's a website called the SA Planning portal that has development plans, but then it also has a whole heap of information about everything else development-wise. If you're wanting to keep track of the development, the planning changes in the state, the SA Planning portal is the place to keep track of those developments. It's where they're posting all this new stuff. So, but we can get our development plans straight from the council website. There are also information sheets. So I alluded to different councils having different things about, you know, be it fences or solar panels or landscaping, tanks, all sorts of things. They've got their fact sheets, everything, or their information sheets. They're important things you've got to find on the council website. When we're looking at task 1, it was mentioning time frames for approval. What else are we looking at? Fees, information required for development application. All that stuff is on the information sheets within the council. Well, within the council we'll be dealing with. And that's the thing. Currently, as it stands, there's no homogeneous approach between councils. Some councils will have all of that information in a drop-down thing when you open up building and development. Others, you won't be able to find it, and you go like, where on earth is this? And it's buried somewhere in a fact sheet. They're all different, but it's about navigating your way through them. And then also approval checklists. So some councils, yeah, will have those approval checklists right there for you. Others, they'll be a little bit buried away. Another source of information for you is sess. So sess is the portal to the Lands Titles Office. As with a lot of things we're dealing with in this subject, that's changed a fair bit recently as well. So the Lands Titles Office, is it? Why is it? Yeah, I don't know the names for all this stuff, but that's all been privatised recently. So that was state government owned, and now that's been privatised, and I'm not really sure how that privatisation model is going to work with land and property information. It's an interesting thing to make private, but yeah. So somebody now owns all the land information in South Australia. I don't know who it is or what entity owns it all, but that's tied up with a department called the Valuer General's Department as well, which has also been privatised. So all that information around property values, property analysis, ownership information, etc. That's all been privatised recently. The face kind of looks the same still, but when it was going through that change a few months back, I was trying to get some stuff, and these pages weren't. Yeah, some of these. Yeah, it was all a bit of a muddle, but it seems to be working today. Anyhow, so that's changed a little bit, and the model of accessing stuff, I imagine, might change a little bit as a result as well. Probably fees will just go. It's one of those monopoly situations, but we'll see. Anyhow, from sess, so sess still exists, you get all your cadastral information. Does anybody know what cadastral information is? Cool. I thought I'd get some. Yeah, great. So we've got a purpose to going through these slides. No. Cadaster, that basically means ownership or record of interest. Technically in Australia, you never fully own something. The Crown, which is the monarchy in England, still have the right to acquire your land. And that exists under certain heads of compensation for certain different reasons. But one very common reason is if we're making South Road wider at a point, then Department of Transport can acquire your land under the Compulsory Acquisition Act, I think it is, on behalf of the Crown. And then they pay you for it's been a long time, but it's like injurious affection and yeah, I can't remember what the heads of compensation are, but you get compensated for it, right? But technically, you never completely own a piece of land in Australia. You never maintain full control. The only piece of land in Australia where somebody owns that completely is a place called Hutt River Province, where a guy seceded from the Commonwealth. You know about that place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's always questionable whether he actually had the right to secede.
Yeah, I know, but they never sent the troops in, so.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's yeah.
And declared himself a prince.
Yes, he declared himself a prince.
It's in Western Australia somewhere. I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly where it is, but
Yeah.
it's just I mean, good on him for doing it. I mean, you know, it's like it takes a complete nutter to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But what's his name? Do you remember? Do you know?
Prince, he's actually died recently,
Yes, he
and
did,
his son has succeeded to the
throne.
princedom. You know, Prince something or other. What was some weird name? I cannot remember.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's homework for people that haven't.
If you want to go down that rabbit hole, that's something you could. Yeah. But yes, basically, the Crown has the right to compulsorily acquire your land. So the Crown always maintains an interest in every portion of land. And there's various different ownership structures of land, and ownership is also called interest. So you have an interest in your property. The bank also has an interest in your property if you get a mortgage. So you get a mortgage, they put something under schedule of endorsements on your title to say that it's mortgaged to this. An easement holder, let's say SA Power Networks, will have an interest on your property if they have power lines running over the top and have created an easement. Well, there's two types of easements. One easement is recorded on the title, as shown on the title. Other easements are statutory easements. Statutory easements aren't shown on the title, but they're implied by power lines going over there. You can't build your house with a ridge height within 5 metres of those power lines. So it's so that, basically I've had it explained to me by SA Power Networks that you can't have somebody stand on the roof and touch the power lines with a rake, fully extended in their arm. Yeah. A fairly long rake, I guess, to meet that 5 metre, but that's why it's there. It's so you can't, that sort of thing can't happen. So it might not be recorded on your title, but it's a statutory easement. So cadastral information is anything that relates to that. So cadaster. So it shows property boundaries or ownership, allotment names, all that sort of stuff. Zoning categories. I think, does everybody here know what zoning categories zoning is? Yeah. Kind of? No. That's basically how councils carve up the public space to say you can do this here, but you can't do this, but you can do that thing over there. In terms of, I can have a factory here, but I can't have a residence here. Or I can have a shop here, or if I do a residence here, then it's to a certain size with a certain coverage of allotment and a certain setback from the road. So zoning is how council prescribes how and what you can do on allotments. And we'll be dealing with that a lot. And then lands title information. So Salus is your portal to that land title, all that information held by the Lands Titles Office, which predominantly deals with cadastral information. So who owns what and how and where is it and etc. I'll quickly, while we're on that topic of cadastral information, I'll also in presentations here got these two. So example, get this one up as well. So property materials and methods, I would have shown you example certificates of title. Yeah, did I? Yeah. For those who haven't seen, this is your certificate of title, and all that. So registered proprietor, that says who owns it. So I blanked that out because I don't want to just go and publicly put it out there. It's not me. Each portion of land or each potential interest in a property has a separate certificate of title. So it's not just a portion of land, it's not just about a geographic space that's carved up that has a certificate of title. I could own an apartment within an apartment block, and then I can have a certificate of title for a space in the air above a geographic location. You knock that tower down, I still own that little space, that piece of space, not that I can do much with it, but you own it, so you can have title for that as well. They'll each be unique. There was some developments previously, and that's kind of what we're dealing with in Project 2 as well, whereby you had blocks of flats, which are separate occupancies that all come under the one certificate of title. Councils don't like them, and I'm pretty sure you won't get one approved today to go have the one certificate of title and then create a block of flats there without the ability for separate ownership. The reason we're talking about that, and we'll look at that in Project 2, is because it's something you might deal with a bit as well, because there are still blocks of flats out there, and it's not happening so much now, but it was happening a lot in the early 2000s. Developers were going around buying blocks of flats, upgrading the walls or ensuring they had fire separation to meet National Construction Code, and then creating separate title under the new community plan title arrangements. And they're making a mozza doing it. Well, on some. And then on other ones that weren't clearly thought out, where fire separation walls didn't extend to the roofs and things like that, and they just rushed in and bought them, they were making losses. But anyhow, it's important to understand all that, because there are mozzas and losses involved in that you've got to create those fire separations. And that's sort of what we're dealing with in Project 2. Is we've got an old block of flats, and they want to divvy them up, dress up the whole thing, make it look really nice, so we can have separate ownership. So that still exists, and there's still avenues for getting separate certificates of title issued for flats and things about the place. But yeah, by and large, every single piece of property that can have a separate interest or occupancy has its own certificate of title. You get a description of that portion. So this one is that's section 30300 Ronkapringer in the area named Basket Range. So that's a whole section. You don't see whole sections very much anymore. So early white settlers, it was pretty much all sections. So section in the 100 of, and somebody in England's carving it all up, going section blah blah blah. But then all those sections have been divided into deposited plans and filed plans, and then further divided into allotments within that. But this one's a whole section. It doesn't have any easements, and yeah, schedule of dealings is very simple, and notifications nil. Everything. So they're incredibly clean title. So
What's the dealings mean?
dealings, that includes things such as mortgages or caveats. Let's say I've got that block of land and I get a builder to build a house on there for me, and then I go, oh, well, thanks for building the house for me, but I don't want to pay you. Then the builder can go, not to court. There's some avenue. What's that? Yeah. To go lodge a caveat on that certificate of title, to say this certificate of title cannot be transferred until that caveat is released through the mechanism of paying the builder what they're owed.
Okay.
So they're able to do that. So a caveat would be lodged there. If there are other little bits and pieces. So basically any sort of interest or control somebody else has that's not an easement gets on there as well.
So I've seen on the web, basically just looking at things like half-built houses.
Oh yeah.
Those sorts of things would probably have a caveat on the title that would require that whatever cost it was for that half-built thing to be discharged.
Quite possibly, yeah. So that's one of the first things you do, and that's why we talk about it in this subject. Is that one of the things you really should do straight up is get a certificate of title when you're working on a place. Get that current certificate of title. A couple of reasons. One is because you've got to supply it with your council approval anyhow. The second one is you want to get an idea of what you're actually dealing with. You want to see that the person who's contracting you to do that work actually owns the place, that they're not just waiting for their elderly relative to die and they're wanting to tizzy it up in the meantime. I've never had that, but just thinking of scenarios. But you want to ensure that the person who's contracting you to do that work owns it. Secondly, you want to make sure that the person contracting you to do that work has not done the dirty on somebody else beforehand, right? By that mechanism. Yeah. Or if you're purchasing it yourself, purchasing a half-built place, or there's plenty of other things to be wary of in that as well. So you want to check for any caveats on there, but you'll also want to check with the council that all notifications have been made to the council through the processes, that they haven't just gone and dug footings and poured footings without notifying council and an engineer. That has to be ticked off. So yeah, a bunch of other things you want to be checking. But definitely for any project you're working on, you have to get a certificate of title. And I've got this one. So that's a really clean title, and you look at that. I'll shrink that down just a smidge so we can fit it on. Yeah, really clean looking allotment. There's nothing much to see there. So nothing has really happened. Other end of the spectrum. That's not a certificate of title. This is deposited plan 29. So this was a section within 100, which has been now divided into a deposited plan, and then on that deposited plan you have allotments. Allotment 20, allotment 21. I don't see which allotment. Oh, that's on a different deposit plan, so it's 30305. So we've got these couple, and that's a different deposited plan as well. Interesting. We've got these two on this deposited plan. Those two allotments. So it would have been that this was once an allotment, and then that's been chopped off that. This one, for example, got a larger view of that. That's got easements and things happening all over the place. So to access this property, they've got easement D over this adjoining portion of land, but there's easement A over this portion. Now that one's for SA Power Networks, and easement B is also for SA power networks. So there are two different easements, I guess, because I don't know, but for some reason we have a dividing line coming through here. But then we've also got easement C to this property here. That's actually for water supply. Oddly enough. But anyhow, so you've got more complex situations like this with a whole bunch of easements to neighbours, etc. And that sort of thing, you know, if you're contracted to do something on here, they've got a house and they want to do an extension, one of the first things you do, you get your certificate of title and you've got your plan attached like this, or you order this as a separate survey plan image. I would be looking at, okay, who owns that easement? Who owns that easement? Is it the same people? Who owns this easement? What is it? And then, so explore into that. And then that information, the start of providing you with some of that information is contained here. So we've got easement C, and that's registered as this document. And then you search for that document in the Land Titles Office to find out what is the nature of that easement, who holds it, what is it for. Okay. So all that information you can get from Salus. Or if you're struggling to find that information on Salus, then you can go into the Land Titles Office. SA map here, so it sounds like you guys know this fairly well. That also has cadastral information. So there's some cadastral information there, not as much as the Land Titles Office, not as much as Salus has, but it has a lot of your cadastral information. It has your zoning categories. It's got lots of geographic information such as contours, soil types, where water courses are, registered water courses. That's another thing you have to check on a place. I haven't written it into any of these projects because we're not close to a water course with any of these projects, but that's a very important thing to check out as well. And it's got a bunch of things about the built environment, such as services, etc. Does anybody know why we need to know about registered water courses?
Manage the building so that it doesn't get the damp.
Yeah, yes, that's...
Contamination with a sewage system. What are they?
What's it called?
Seepage. Yeah. So, yeah, bang on. That's the thing that will stop you building.
Right.
Okay. Well, yes. Okay. Proximity to water and potential for flooding may also stop you from building. Like councils will say no, we won't. That there's a separate allotment there. It has a separate title. The zoning is right, but they won't allow you to build there because of flooding issues. But that's rare. But a really common one is that you can't do your septic soakage within 50 metres of a registered watercourse or a bore. Boreholes you can also get on SA Map View as well. So you can find out where boreholes are. But you can also not do your dwelling within 35 metres of a registered watercourse, even if your septic system is further away. Sometimes that can be really restrictive because there are lots of allotments close to watercourses that don't have the sewer connection. So yeah.
Did you say that watercourse thing can be found on SA Map View?
It certainly can.
What should we look for?
All right. Well, let's do that now. Does anybody want to give me an address?
174 Shippers.
Yeah.
No, because I am on that.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
Does anybody want to?
All right, do 18 Bishop Street, Sky.
Okay. So Bishop Street, right next to, so we've got Horsnell's Gully there, and that's Old Norton Summit Road. Oh, we've got a watercourse along that, don't we?
Oh no.
So, so Oh, it is a random address right here.
Yeah.
On SA Map View, you've got your satellite view, but you can also change your maps. I like using it in roads quite often because it still shows our cadastral boundaries like that, but it keeps it quite clear for seeing a bunch of other things. And then data sets, I think it's under landscape and water. Well, let's chuck on boreholes. Let's put that on anyhow. Prescribed water courses. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. So that creek that goes down along Old Norton Summit Road is not a prescribed water course. Oh, hang on. What's that? Yeah. Gee, excuse me. Previously, I've seen prescribed water courses shown as a solid blue line. Why am I getting dark blue? So it's drill hole, right? No data found. What's that? That's drill hole as well. So I've got two different icons for drill holes. Excuse me, I haven't seen this before, but that happens a bit.
So those are the points at which you've got to measure from?
Yes, so we're not allowed to do our septic system within 50 metres of one of these boreholes. So at number 18 Bishop Street in Skye, where's our boundaries? Gee.
Actually got more.
Yeah, so you might need to do a septic system on this, but because your neighbours have got a bore, you're not allowed to. Yeah.
So which comes first, the bore or
the bore is already there, isn't it?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
We have to all forget we all know the promotion.
What's that?
That's where we live, and we're on septic. Our seepage is in that block on the left, to the left of the green thing.
In this block here.
No, that's our neighbours.
Oh,
there.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that me?
No, it's not. So you'd probably want to avoid having to upgrade your septic system.
Yes.
But how do you know that borehole wasn't put there after?
No, it's been there.
It doesn't even matter, does
Yeah,
it?
because it already exists. So if you're knocking down your house and building a new house, for example, then if you're not on mains sewer there, which I don't think you would be, and we can check, but if you're not on mains sewer, then when you put your application in, council will say, well, we want an on-site wastewater application with this. And then, they might check that.
Is that when they make you put envirocycles in?
Exactly. So it's not just that you have to use an envirocycle or aerated wastewater septic system. There's a list of septic systems which are approved for use under the SA Health guidelines. So there's a bunch of aerated septic systems, and they're your mainstay. But then there are reed bed options. There are other alternate options that have gained approval as well.
Okay, sorry.
So that's all right. Yeah, that's all. This is all related to planning and development. But yes, that prescribed water course. Maybe I didn't click it properly. No, prescribed water course. Why is that not showing as a solid blue line? Water courses. I'll chuck that on.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna knock that off. See what. Yeah, there's no prescribed. So there's only a couple prescribed water courses showing up.
What would be the difference between prescribed?
Well, actually, I've never looked into it. But yeah, I've only explored this thoroughly back prior to the advent of SA Map Viewer, when you still had to order the maps from the state government, because if a water course showed on their maps, then it was 50 metres from that water course which is shown on their maps. And at that time they were called prescribed water courses. The language here in SA Map Viewer is only showing prescribed water courses as these blue ones like Onkaparinga River and Torrens and Panalunga. But I can be quite certain there's a bunch of water courses in here you can't build.
It may also
Right next to
be
it, so-
that they've softened it so that people could build.
That may be, yeah, and that may be something to
Because you saw
re-explore.
those points on it, which were points that you would measure from.
Yeah, but it's
And-
those points are drill holes though.
And
So,
then
yeah, so
there's also the blue points.
I know, and that's something I haven't seen until today, until just now. We've got this one, which is a drill hole.
Yeah.
Right, I'll try to see the difference between that, and then that one
That's also true.
is also a drill hole. The difference between those drill holes, I don't know.
Because I mean, I suspect they may have thrown that out because this down where I live, just off Goodwood Road, they put in a drakes right next to what looks like to me a watercourse.
Hmm.
So
Does it always have water in it?
I don't know, but it's definitely a drainage system of some sort. It's concreted, but it's definitely a natural kind of. It looks like it's run as a natural feature, and they built a drakes right next to it. They couldn't possibly be more than.
Yeah, but they would have main sewer connection.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So this is only for on-site wastewater disposal, and I would.
But you said something about not building within 35 metres. Building anything.
Yes. Oh, but that's where you have to have an on-site wastewater system.
All right.
The building can't.
So
Yeah.
the difference between those drill
Yep.
holes, the pale blue ones are water wells and the darker blue ones are domestic water wells, if that makes any sense to you at all.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a water point, is looking at mine.
That one.
No, that's the water well.
Yeah.
And the
Oh.
dark ones are domestic water wells.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and then these black ones you're talking about.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Sort of
water
sort of
point.
Water point.
water point.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So you want to be searching for things like that on SMF. We'll get back on track.
Is that needed
Yeah.
for?
What's that?
Is that needed for task 1 or task 2?
No, the water courses and things are not needed for task 1 and task 2. So in none of our projects in this one are we dealing with these considerations, because none of our properties are sort of hills properties
but it's
outside.
something to consider.
But
Yes,
definitely,
it is.
definitely something to consider, because well, something to be aware of that you need to explore if you're working in these sort of areas.
And so you knew that you couldn't have, what was something that you couldn't have within 50 metres of a borehole?
An on-site wastewater system.
And how did you find out that information? Where do you find that from?
So that's in the SA Health on-site wastewater guidelines. I came across that first when looking at a place in Basket Range that had a creek running through it, and it had a small portion of land which was easily accessible from the road, and a very large portion of land which had no vehicle access to it. The tiny portion was the portion in which made sense to be building upon, except the dimensions of that were too small for SA Health on-site wastewater. And it was one of the neighbours that told me about it.
Okay.
They saw I was looking at it and they said, "Oh, there's an issue with this, by the way." Thanks. What is? Yeah. That's how it first came to my attention. But it's come to my attention since as well, several times.
Yeah, so in our tasks, is it detailed as to, so if we are going to approve a building, to plan it, how do we know we've considered everything when, there's a borehole that we didn't know about and then we have to redo it all as well? Like, is that general knowledge that you pick up as we go?
Yeah, so I'll try, I guess I have to keep us on track as much as possible to get you guys through this whole thing. And what we're dealing with in this subject are more general things and things that you're more likely to encounter. but some of the more random things which you're less likely to encounter, I'll try to get them in there as well. Fill you guys up with that sort of stuff as well, but I can't promise.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
a quick call to the council and say, look, is this an okay block?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Every time, just every time make it a practice.
Yeah, that is a really good suggestion. Yes.
Because they're the experts, they've got to know.
And I've found that when places are for sale, you phone up, and you're already the fourth or fifth person who's phoned up about that place. People do this. They get straight on the phone to the council and say, what applications have been previously refused on this? Is there anything I need to be aware of? For dealing with vacant parcels in odd, well not odd, but hills locations, things like that. If you're buying an allotment within a subdivision, you're pretty safe.
Yeah.
You might not need to make that call there.
Yeah. But most things should be labelled in their development plans or the council plans.
No, not really. So, the development plans, they set out what you can be doing on those, what style of building, etc.
Okay,
Yeah, what your setbacks are, and so on. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a whole heap of traps which are not set out in the development plans, and also some things that you might phone the council and say, is this an issue? And that has happened to me with a place at Woodside with boreholes. I phoned the council to talk about this particular place, and they said, by the way, do you know there's 6 boreholes on that allotment? I said, no. They said, well, you should know because that's, They told me about that. But some things they don't really know about, easements and things like that. That's not really their dealings. And so you want to phone the utilities that own those easements and discuss those with them as well. But that's sort of digging that you have to do yourself. You have to get the certificate of title, look at that, and say, oh yes, there's this easement here. How's it dealt with, etc. So, but excellent suggestion, Elizabeth. So, on SA Map Viewer, locate relevant council development plan zone, wind category and climate zone. All right, well, I'll turn these data sets off. This is making it a little bit too confusing. I'll turn those bore drill holes off, at least as well. Rightio. So relevant council. So here we are at Sky. There we go. Can anybody tell me what the relevant council is?
Probably Burns. Probably.
Yeah. So although he can't at that scale, he can't really see the dotted lines that define it. But the dotted line goes down here and it goes down the Google Road, I think.
But I mean, they actually tell you directly on their research. So
What's that? Oh yes, thank you. Yes.
So you don't have to kind of guess. You just got to.
Yeah. But we can go. Collapse that one down. Go land management, property and planning. Well, let's put bushfire protection areas. Oh dear. Design wind speed. Energy efficiency zone. Development plan. Oh, actually, no, we don't need the map index, but we'll probably want development plan zone categories. I reckon we might have done enough for now. And then you go, what's here? So development plan code, for Burnside, bushfire protection area. Well, we know it. We know it's called high, but it's assessment zone. Yeah.
That's where you're at.
Oh yes. Oh, yeah. So bushfire description high, which high that will be BAL 40 or flame zone. Basically, when it's high, it means it needs an assessment. by CFS. If we want to build there, then it has to be assessed by CFS. Although, actually, yeah, look, high encompasses BAL 40 and flame zone, but you might be lucky enough to have an assessment from CFS that come back and say, no, it's BAL 29 or BAL 19 or BAL 12.5. That might happen. Design wind speed. Oh, 999. So this one, we can't get our wind speed off that straight away. So we'll have to do our own assessment. So there's Australian Standard 4055, where you go through the steps to get your wind speed category. I won't go through that today because we're not, that's sort of going a bit beyond the scope. But it's also not ridiculously hard to work out. Stratco, surprisingly, put together a really good information sheet about determining your wind speed. So they put together this information sheet that summarises and simplifies AS 4035 to go finding. So, so Jenny, if you were to build there, you'd have to do your own, or somebody would have to do an assessment on it. But in most other places, it will tell you. So for our 174 Shepherd's Hill Road, it will tell you.
Where did you get the history?
That's under property and planning. But also, so you can I go through data sets, but you can also go through data search as well. So you can go type in wind speed, design wind speed. That's also an option for you. Oh, so it's not showing for Shepherd's Hill Road. It's not coming up as an option. No. Did you try the data search and type in wind?
You type it in, and it doesn't show it. I've always struggled with that.
Oh, well, it doesn't show it when you list, but it enables you to tick the box.
Oh, so right. Oh, yeah.
That one's already ticked. So, design. Okay, design wind speed. There we go. Tick the box. Maximum 10 layers can be added. So you've got a lot of stuff on here. Right here, well, let's turn some things off. Come to data sets. You have to find some of these ones you've got on and turn some things off. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And climate zone. So you'll find that under property and planning as well. Your climate zone. So zone 5. So that's I thought you'd be zone 6, but zone 5. So you sneak in under that metro area. There's pretty much just 2 zones that you're dealing with in Adelaide and surrounds. Is zone 5, climate zone 5, which is that flatter area, metro area in Adelaide, and then zone 6, which is the hills and Fleurieu. The reason you have different climate zone for hills and Fleurieu is because, well, it's a little bit colder. Typically, Victor Harbour, the climate's a bit more agreeable, but still comes under 6.
Is that ST perimeter shape on that same data set that you have?
Oh,
that one there.
Which one? Where?
It was that one. Just
okay.
That shape, and then it gives you a number.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'll click that open again. Is that only showing energy efficiency?
Climate zones. Yeah. That one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Only because I'm looking at a different place and it's got the same zone type, same temperature, and then the same perimeter shape. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, so I imagine that relates to the line around the entirety of the climate zone. Yeah.
Because then so these 2 places, because these ones are different, I think they must be in the same.
Yeah,
zone.
within the same climate zone. So
and then the zone is this.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go. Now, So that's everybody should be able to complete that first section of the assignment, I'm pretty sure. First section of the task. From that, now, so yeah, we look at our subject property and we find out what council area that's in. I won't go finding that that council website, and this is the problem. No two council websites are the same in where they keep all their information. And so we could go into that council website, and I could take you on a tour of that council website and give you all the answers to find everything. Or we can look at another council website just to have a look at another council website, but you kind of have to work your way through that other one. Anyhow, so we'll look at Unley Council. It's not one I'm particularly familiar with. But some of the things that are similar is that councils deal with a whole heap of things, not just property and planning and development. Now that's what we engage with them on primarily, but there's a whole bunch of stuff which isn't relevant to us. Pretty much everything that's relevant to us will be down here. Building and development, and then under building and development, we might want to have a look at the development plan. We might want to have a look at application forms and resources, because we're asked for, for our application form. We might want to have a look at, well, yeah, let's go to maybe everything we need if we were to do a building in Unley is located in this one place, which makes it easier. Other councils have their application forms, and then they have fact sheets and so on, and you have to look in both areas. So
on Monday you said something that you would be providing all those forms for us, so, or do we still need to just download?
Okay. As far as I know, the council that we're dealing with for 174 Shepherds Hill Road still has PDF forms on their website. I didn't check it.
Yeah, they do.
They do? Right. So I won't need to provide you with those. But for Project 2 and Project 3, I will. So, resources and guidelines. And so they've got forms there. And they've got fact sheets here. Fact sheets will include authorisation to alter public road and damage to council infrastructure. That's actually, it sounds like something you wouldn't ever use, but actually it is. So if you want to put a driveway into a property, if you've got a parcel of land that doesn't have a driveway, or if you're buying a house, a large allotment, knocking that over and putting in a bunch of other smaller houses and do a driveway for that, you're going to have to alter public road, and you're going to have to damage council infrastructure, that being the curb, or trees, or grass to the verge, or something. So, yeah, you're going to have to go through that process, typically. So with your development application, you also have to put in one of those. Project 2, I don't make you do it, but essentially that's what you're doing in Project 2 as well. You might, well actually you don't have to. You can keep the driveway as it is, but you might change it. Fact sheet on brush fences. I hope nobody wants to put a brush fence in. I don't know. It's such a fantastic idea. Oh, yeah, that stuff that brush fences is made out of, the actual plants, seeing that stuff burn over the summer was, yeah.
The thing about them is they are absolutely superb noise mitigators.
Yeah, and carbon neutral.
And carbon neutral. I mean, but the noise mitigation is extraordinary. I mean, I've actually been in a house that was on Main Road on one side. They were on the corner of a very, very busy road. They had a brush fence, and I mean, it was probably too difficult to make a brush fence. and you literally couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
And I have never, apart from someone who was in an apartment in the UK that was under a freeway, and she had the glazing and you literally couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
That brush fence was the only thing I have ever in the open experienced that was that good.
Yeah.
That obviously the fire issue is the big.
Can't they put a fire retardant spray or something like that?
I don't know. Haven't heard of that. Maybe that should happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if you dipped it in a white paint, it would look really good in the modern thing, but the thing is, councils will want you to go all natural.
Yeah. Yeah. But that stuff just burns so well. It's just like a bundle of kindling.
Yeah.
With oils. Yeah. So change in land use. You probably won't be dealing with that. Complementary residential fences, gates, and gardens. That's probably something you want to have a look at. Council assessment panel. You probably won't have a look at that. Maybe in project 3, but we're not dealing with only council in project 3. Demolition, yeah, maybe. Domestic outbuildings, possibly. Solar panels, yes. Regulated and significant trees, yes. Non-compliant development, you want to read that. Probably want to read that. And probably guidelines for development. Because, yeah, as I said before, every council is different. So you're going to have to navigate your way through their stuff to find all those bits of information. Okay, let's have a look at the residential zone. Okay, so it's more about extracts from their development plan as opposed to saying these are what the fees are and this is what the timeline is. Yeah, it's basically extract from the development plan. So what I'll do now is set you free to work on task 1. So have a look at that SM Map Viewer stuff to begin with, then go onto your relevant council website and try to find all the stuff and stick your hand up if you're really stuck on things. I think it's going to be the thing, because you will be. There will be bits and bobs, so you go, I can't find that.